We look forward to having you join us. So just go ahead and make yourself comfortable when you get on the Zoom chat. I know this is a new medium for many of you to have a video along with the conference call. Makes us a little more self-conscious sometimes, but feel free if you don't want to have your video showing, you can turn your video off and just listen. But it's so wonderful to have the face-to-face encounter. doTERRA is all about relationships and helping people encounter each other in an authentic way. So this is as close as we get to being in person. And I'm so honored tonight to have Carrie Donegan with us. She is a remarkable leader in doTERRA and is just making strides and waves of her own in beautiful ways with her own team out on the East Coast. And I'm going to have her share about her own story tonight. Before I introduce her formally, I just wanted to reach out and give you all a little bit of an exposure to me. We have new people on the call. We have builders that perhaps have drifted in their passion and zeal and they're looking to be reignited. We have some cross-line friends joining us. And so just as a way of introducing myself, my name is Chantal Howard, and I've been building with doTERRA for 3 years now. Actually, to be honest, I've been with doTERRA, but I haven't been building the whole time. It took a while to get my engines going. And my family has been through a very real and powerful experience with doTERRA, not only through the standpoint of oils, but also through the vehicle of building. And we have grown so much, and it has allowed us to explore dreams and possibilities that we never, ever thought were possible for us. We've been traveling for the last 8 months as a family, and I'm actually in my RV right now, sitting on the bed. So welcome to my world. You should see the surrounding just to get this. I have my big Mac computer rigged in the corner so that I can do work when I need to, and the kids are in the other room taking in a video. So it's really an adventure, but that's one of the blessings that doTERRA has offered and provided for us. So I hope that for all of you tonight, that you will just take in with passion and with conviction the amazing story that Carrie is going to share with you and some insights that she has, and just open yourself up to the possibility. doTERRA is just been, again, such a remarkable vehicle for us, not only in personally transforming our lives, but also in being a catalyst to help change other people's lives all around the country. And so I look forward to having you, Carrie, go ahead and join us. Carrie is a mother of 2 children. And if I can brag just a little bit, I don't know if you still hold the title, but I know for a while you and your husband held the title for the fastest to diamond in 54 days.
That's so true as far as I know, yeah.
So this is an incredible leader. She knows what she's doing. I'm going to just let Carrie go ahead and share her story with us, and then she's going to share a business tip with us, a little bit more about the kind of the middle section of our call is going to be her wisdom in terms of how to help us discover maybe some new platforms moving forward, and maybe answer the question for some of you, which is, why doTERRA? Why now? What does this take? And is it worth it? And then at the end, we are going to unpack some of your questions. I invite you, if you have questions throughout the call, you can type them in the chat session. And at the end, I'm going to weed through some of those and hopefully have a chance, if we have time, for Carrie to answer some of those. So thank you, Carrie.
Great. Okay, so a little bit about my story. So we started 3 years ago, actually in May. It was a big family decision for all of us, and it was one that was really well thought through, and we had created pretty strict parameters and a plan for ourselves. My story is a little bit different because most people in doTERRA come to this business because of a health issue, or they come to doTERRA usually through the wife or the mother. If you actually work this as a team, if you're a husband-wife couple. But when I talk to other leaders, what I hear is that usually the wife found out about the oils first. They use the oils in their home. And then they like took off running with the product. And then eventually when they started to make some money, their husbands jump in and get involved. And my story is very, very different than that, because I actually was not interested in joining doTERRA at all. And it was my husband who analyzed the company. He's a business analyst. And when he was first introduced to doTERRA, he was very impressed with the corporate culture, the executives and their background, the way the company was set up. He analyzes companies all the time, and he was really intrigued by just how smart doTERRA was as a company. And we had many, many discussions, actually for several months, about why we would want to go and jump into doTERRA. And for us, it was really, it had to be a financial decision, because we needed the income. And so my concept was to go back to a traditional job and pursue that. But we still had young kids at home, and we were very pooled about, you know, leaving them and daycare and childcare. We live 8 miles from New York City. You probably will hear the commuter train go through the back of our property a couple of times during this call. So we live a very urban life, and a lot of high stress and a lot of long hours. So most of the people in our neighborhood leave in the dark and return in the dark, and their children rarely get to see them. And so one of the things that we talked about when we first got married was, how do we raise a family and stay connected to them as much as possible? Like, how can we actually get around this very urban lifestyle that was home? This is a home for us. And so we weren't interested in moving. We were just interested in being very creative. And I have to say, my husband, of the two of us, is the most creative person. You know, he's the kind of person who says, if you want it, you can have it. And sometimes I don't see it, I have to say that. But he did. He saw doTERRA, he analyzed it, and he jumped right in. And it took me several months to get on board. He used to bring products home and he'd say, hey, try this. And I just kind of push it aside, or I didn't like the smell, or I didn't understand how to use things. And I was really not interested. Well into the summer, we joined in the spring, and it was like once we were in the summertime that I realized there's something really special here. You know, like when you start to see the products work, especially you have a man, a spouse in your house who's willing to use the products. If you have kids that like the products and start to use the products, they really led me into this whole thing. So once we realized that this was something that was going to be exciting for our family, and I did agree to jump in, you know, once my husband made a decision that this was the direction we were going to go in. The first thing he said, which I think was the most important thing, was you need an absolute business plan. Like, you cannot start a business without a business plan. So there wasn't anything magical to the fact that we got to Diamond in 54 days. The reason we got there so quickly was because that was the income we needed to survive in New York City, basically. So just given the standard of living and the expenses that we had, that was our goal. And so if we were going to make it work, we had to make it work. And if this is something you want to do to earn an income, then you have to be very familiar with a compensation plan. And it may look like, you know, alphabet soup. I'm not a compensation plan person. My background is much more on the science side. And so numbers, I was totally not interested in it, but I sat down and listened to my husband explain it to people over and over and over again. And eventually, it took some time, but eventually I really understood the nuances of the compensation plan and how really incredibly special it is, and what a wonderful financial opportunity it has really been for us. And so one of the pitfalls that people fall into is this concept of I'm putting so much into my doTERRA business at the beginning, but my checks are really small. And honestly, that's because they're looking at it as a job, and it's not a job. You're building an asset. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but your attitude and your understanding of what doTERRA is will absolutely change the way you look at it and how you work at it and what you're going to receive from it. So I hope that kind of answered your first question, but it has allowed us and afforded us the ability to earn two New York City salaries, which is incredible in and of itself. And we were able to do that within 9 months. So it was a 9-month build-up to Blue Diamond, and that was the level we needed to cover our expenses. And then after that, we've been building ever since. But that was our plan, and we met our plan month after month after month because we felt like we had no choice. And there's something very special about, being solid in that realm too. And we are home with our kids, and we have a very flexible schedule. So everything that we planned out did come to fruition.
That's an amazing story. I think you're exactly right in that a lot of times people join in with doTERRA almost as a hobby or perhaps with not knowing a lot. And in all honesty, that was kind of the similar direction that we started. I initially just wanted to help pay for the product that we were enjoying the benefits from. But at a certain point, and even we're revising this even as we speak, but we've chosen in, and seeing that it's possible is beautiful. But maybe you could speak to the question that some people might have. Maybe they're new, maybe they're looking in from the outside. Maybe you could just share a little bit about what is particularly unique about doTERRA, and why would people want to look at doTERRA right now? Is it, is there room enough for more people to climb to the top, or is this just a giant pyramid scheme?
Okay, the numbers speak for themselves. So if you look on the doTERRA website, every month they post the rank advancement. So you see more silvers, more golds, more platinums, more diamonds. They're always growing. They're always producing new ranks. In fact, China right now is actually going to double their ranks from this month to August. So that projection in and of itself is pretty incredible. And just not to go into a big long story about China, but their criteria is 10 times harder than ours. So if they can take this opportunity and literally double it in size, then that's something I think that we should really take advantage of. But there's kind of two sides to why this is such a special company. There's the financial side, and you can do all that research. It's right there online. Any direct sales company has a published compensation plan, and you can compare them side by side. Actually, doTERRA has done a beautiful job of analyzing the compensation plans, and all of that information is available to you if you don't want to go through it yourself. But if you're a little bit skeptical and you say, well, I'm not sure I'm going to take their word for it, I really want to delve into all the compensation plans and compare them, go ahead and do that. But I will tell you from personal experience, it's incredible to see when you hit the medal ranks, when you hit silver, and they say, when you're a silver, you should be making about $2,000 a month. And then you get that first silver check, and it actually is $2,000. You feel in your heart that they're telling you the truth. And then when you rise to the rank of gold, and that check really is $4,000, you have greater confidence. And then you get to platinum, and that check is like $6,000. You get to diamond, it's $8,000. And it just keeps doubling on itself. And each time you look in the magazine and you read the stories of the leaders in this company, you realize it doesn't really matter where you come from. There are people who are single. There are people who are married. There are people who have children with disabilities. There are people who started out with high levels of debt and had no money to invest in it. There are people who have high school educations. There are people who have PhDs. So it's really not about what you have. It's about what you give to your doTERRA business. This is not a business that you have to come into it with any particular criteria. This whole business is based on what you're willing to sacrifice and actually invest in your doTERRA business. That's how it's going to grow. So you have the beautiful compensation plan that absolutely pays just the way they say it's going to pay. So that's number one. Number two is I am very analytical, and I've tested every essential oil on the market. I've actually sent it to labs. I've read lab reports. I know the science behind the essential oils, so I can read the analysis. I have friends that are in the cosmetic industry. I have friends in the pharmaceutical industry. We've really cracked this company wide open. If there were skeletons here, I promise you we will have drilled down and tried to find them. Because one thing about New Yorkers, we don't like to be, you know, caught, and we don't like to be surprised, and we're very cynical. So we're not going to take anybody's word for anything. So we did a lot of research. So I know the product is solid, but even more important than actually analyzing the product works. And so that's the real proof that you need. If you expect to use an essential oil and put it on for a specific issue and you get the result every time, then that is really the kind of experience that's going to be able to build your business, because then you have a solid understanding that the product works. And then the product really sells itself. So open that bottle as soon as you can. And then you have the owners. So if you look at other companies, most other companies are either privately held by one person or a family, or you have other companies that are, you know, maybe an investment firms. So you have people who are venture capitalists. So there's really no people behind it. It's just people grouping money together, and they invest in an idea for a while that's fashionable or trendy, and they throw it out in the market and they see how much money they can make, and then they cash in and close. And that's what doTERRA is. That's not what doTERRA is all about. They have 7 owners with 7 different specialties. So each comes with a very unique understanding of how this company comes together. That's number one. Number two, they are all, they individually, I don't know if you know this or not, but they all mortgaged their homes and took their own private money and invested in the company, and that was the seed money for the company. And although they could have taken venture capital money, they refused it. I actually know some of the people that they pitched, you know, to them, and they refused them. So I know that from both sides. And the other thing that they did was they have promised to the company that they will not go public. And maybe that doesn't sound like it's an important thing to you, but once you have shareholders involved and you have other people, then the path of the company is no longer in the hands of the owners, it's in the hands of the shareholders. And that really does make a huge difference in content, in quality, in direction, in marketing, in spirit, in culture. All of that can change. And so when you have those 3 pillars, you have this very, very strong, you know, triangle. That's a very, very strong and solid structure for any company. So, and it has been for the last 3 years extremely consistent. And each of the owners are very accessible. I've met them all. I've talked to them all. They will correspond with you. They really want to get to know the wellness advocates and the people that make up the company. And, you know, I've worked in lots of different places, and I've never had that flow of information, that ease of access between the corporate side and the sales side. So that's a very unique part of the company as well.
That was some incredible information, and I know that we're all very appreciative. I find that when we are first initially starting, for many people, there's this desire to hide behind the MLM dimension. And I think that more and more, the reality is it's something to be not only, at least in this case with doTERRA, to be incredibly proud of and incredibly excited to share. So I hope you're all taking notes, because this is something that then you can have at the tip of your tongue to be able to share the next time you have an opportunity. I would like to just transition just slightly and ask some questions that my team has sent in and that we wanted to ask of you specifically. So, and then this will kind of move us into the next phase of discussion. The first question I want to ask, especially in light of your comments just now, is what would you say, and this is really coming from Peter and I, so this is our first question, then I'm going to transition to the other ones, is what would you say are the first or the most important habits or initial steps to take in terms of creating the business? Go ahead. What are you asking?
Yeah, I guess it's always like what are the necessary elements there in order to take the quickest significant steps that you have to break first, because otherwise you kind of, you know, linger on in this limbo stage, and you're like, you know, I'm not quite where we should be, you know, like what, you know, those breakthrough moments.
Yeah, to get through the doTERRA desert.
Quickly.
Okay, so I want you to imagine that your business is like a restaurant, because I don't think people understand what doTERRA is, but I think everybody understands what a restaurant is, right? We've all been to restaurants. I'm hoping that I've come to an example we can all understand. So you have just bought a restaurant. Congratulations. You are a business owner, and your restaurant is called doTERRA. And the first thing you need to do is build the building, because everybody's going to want to come in out of the rain and sit down in your lovely establishment and enjoy what you have to offer. So you have to build that, which means that you have to hire builders, then you have to hire cooks, you have to have servers, you have to have a decorator, you have to buy furniture. All of this is the nuts and bolts of putting that business together. And that for you in doTERRA is 150 PV LRP. So if you're not purchasing 150 PV LRP every month, you cannot build this as a business. So don't shave your investment in this company down to 100, 125. You know, when I see people who are literally 100 PV every month, I know in my mind that business they think they own has no foundation, no structure, no roof, nothing, because their heart isn't in it. $100 worth of product every month is not enough product to get into the market to share with other people. The product that you're buying every month is business materials, not necessarily like pieces of paper. I'm talking about the actual product. That product goes out into the world to help them understand what doTERRA is. If you're buying shampoo for your hair and brushing your teeth with On Guard toothpaste and putting balance on your shoulders every day, that comes out of your personal budget. That has nothing to do with your business. You take that out of your groceries or whatever budget in your household that falls in. It's not part of your business. There are two different purchases you're making. It could be all in one LRP, but at least 150 PV of points has to go back out into the world to encourage people to understand what opportunity is there. So I want you to get that straight. So the 150 PV that you're purchasing every month goes into the floor and the walls and the tables of your restaurant. And if you're buying product for your own personal use, that's like you went home and paid for groceries. They're two different things. They don't have anything to do with your restaurant. Now, once you get your restaurant built and it's solid, you're going to need customers, right? And this is where people get really confused between what their business looks like and what they're doing to get there. So most people think, and this is so sad, that they're going to open up a beautiful restaurant, right? We have a beautiful product line, and people are going to be attracted into it, and they're going to want to purchase it, just like a delicious meal, right? I love On Guard. I love lavender. I'm sitting down at the table of doTERRA, at the table of lavender and On Guard and Serenity and all those beautiful products. And then at the end of the meal, guess what your upline owner of that restaurant asks you to do? They ask you to wash the dishes. And I'll tell you what happens. They look at those people who are sitting at the table and eating, and they'll say, go have a party, go share one-on-one, go get people to do doTERRA. And they look at you like, wait a minute, I'm just buying oils. I'm a consumer. I like this. I wanted to be a wellness advocate because I like the discount. You know, or maybe when I'm out and about, I might pull out a peppermint beadlet and offer one to a friend. But I didn't want to wash the dishes. Now you want me to roll up my sleeves and start working, and it doesn't. So you confuse people when you try to take someone who's purchasing a product and force them into being part of your sales team or part of your restaurant staff. I hope that makes sense. So if you can clarify in your own head the people in your group right now who are actually part of your restaurant, who are the staff, not the people sitting in the restaurant, the actual staff, all of a sudden your business is going to look so different to you. And honestly, I've had this heart-to-heart conversation with people on my team, and I've had big leaders who look at me and say, I've got only people sitting in my restaurant right now. And I say, that's okay. You need customers, right? Our business needs customers. We need people in the restaurant eating all the time. And you know what those customers do? They go out and they tell their friends what a great meal it was, and they bring the friends into the restaurant. And those are our sharers, and that's great. Those people are super important. But you do not get to diamond with those two groups of people. You get to diamond with business partners. And these are the people that paint the walls, buy the food, cook the food, stay out late, clean up the restaurant, and they're there to the very end every day to lock up and go home. That's what it means to own a business. You have to be there at the beginning and at the end. I mean, I have people on my team who take the whole summer off, and they're not my partners. And it's fine, because you know what? I say, awesome, go down the shore, enjoy your family, send me a postcard, and when you come back in September, we can have a party. But I'm not relying on them to hold my business together, and I'm not relying on them for my family's income, right? I mean, I have to pay my mortgage and pay for groceries and the heat, and I can't. And what happens is, if you put the pressure on the customers to make sure that you're going to get a paycheck, you're going to create a huge tension and a lot of stress on your team. And then people will start to back away. And so what I see sometimes when I see a team that's literally flatlined, you know, you're not really going ahead. You're constantly, like, people are dropping off and people are coming in and dropping off and coming in. That's because there's a confusion as to who is what. Now, you can convert people, you know, you can share with people the amazing financial opportunity. But it's something they have to come to, and they have to make that commitment on their own. You can't pull them in. You can't drag them in. You can't force them into something. You can't place them in a spot and hope that they comply. It's really, really, it's very, very hard. And I've seen a lot of tension that can be created in this business unnecessarily. It's absolutely not necessary, because if you keep everybody separate, nobody gets upset.
That's just so insightful. I love the idea of a restaurant, and I know for myself that it's exactly been the challenge you've described. You've got the ins and the outs and the confusion of back and forth and trying to pull people on. How do you, I want to get to my other question, so I'm just getting one follow-up question. How do you find the most effective way to invite at that level of partnership? Where do you begin that conversation?
Okay, so number one, you should be spending 90% of your time doing that. If you're building, if you're sharing oils, then you're having parties and meeting people one-on-one and doing it at your leisure, you know, when the spirit moves you. But if you're building, and this is something that people don't quite feel like they can leap into, but 90% of your time needs to be interviewing people for a position on your team. And if you've ever interviewed someone for a regular job, then you probably know the process. But if you haven't ever interviewed someone, then talk to someone who hires. I'm not kidding. You know someone in HR. There's got to be someone in the world that you know who works in human resources. Get them on the phone and say, can I have 15 minutes of your time? I want to understand the process of hiring. How do I look for the right criteria? And you'll know what the right criteria is, but you're going to have to understand the job of hiring someone. One of the things that Rich Higbee says, who's one of the sales managers at doTERRA for US and Canada, beautiful, incredible guy, very smart, been in the industry for 25, 30 years. He tells people personal growth is not as important as skilling up. And what he means by that is, if you're not good at something, then you need to recognize it and get the skill that you need. So if you've never hired someone, how are you going to build a team? You need to learn how to hire. If you've never run a company, if you've never been a CEO or a vice president or a president of anything, then you have to sit down with someone who is a CEO. I don't care if it's your local dry cleaner. Your local dry cleaner is owned and run by probably one person or a family. And they are CEOs. And they know how to run a business top to bottom. And if you've never done it, you need to find out what they do. Because you can't just step into this without the skills that you need. And it doesn't take a lot. You're not going back to school for 4 years for an MBA. That's not the point. You just have to know the structure of running a business. And part of that is understanding management and hiring. And so if you're going to put your team together, and it depends on the level of income that you need. Like when people come to me and want to replace their income, they need to be platinums. But I have other members of our team who live out in the Midwest or live in the South, and they'll say to me, if I got to a gold, my husband could quit his job. So you have to tell me what income level you need, and then we can work at achieving that level. But each of those levels requires a certain number of business partners, right? So for example, to be a premier, you need 2 executives. Even the name executive should trigger the thought, oh, an executive is a business partner, right? I need 2 actual business partners to get to premier. And so just having the volume or just having the numbers of people and just having the structure doesn't create a solid foundation for your team. You could have that 5,000 in volume during the frankincense promotion, and then the next month it's all gone. Why? Because you really don't have 2 executives. You just have those numbers in the right places. So I'd say if you want to rank advance very quickly so that you have the structure in place, and then you have income and time and flexibility, you need to find your business partners, which means you may need to spend about 90% of your time looking for referrals and interviewing people.
That's very insightful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a great answer.
Sure.
So, and the next question we have is just a simple one, but also I think important for those that are just beginning. And what is the most important daily habit? This comes.
Oh, I love this question.
Yeah, this comes from Shauna in Texas.
Well, thank you, Shauna. That's one of my favorite questions. So I couldn't have asked for a more perfect question. You have to I think you have to set a realistic schedule, a daily schedule, and you have to be extremely accountable to it. And you have to show up for yourself. So one of the things I noticed, especially working with stay-at-home moms, which, a lot of doTERRA is full of stay-at-home moms, and we tend to be sacrificial by nature. And we feel like doTERRA is our thing. And so it has to take the backseat to our kids, our house, our family, our eating right, our exercise program, our faith life, taking time out for prayer, whatever it is. We're willing to put anything else ahead of doTERRA because we feel like the only person that benefits from doTERRA is us. And I think if you want to do this and succeed, you have to understand that doTERRA is a vehicle that can take you and enrich all those other aspects of your life if and only if you're willing to be completely rigid with your time investment in that until you get to your goal. Once you get to your goal, you can revisit your schedule. But I have had the same schedule for the past 3 years, to the point that at any moment of any time, anyone in my life can tell me where I am, which is probably, not such a great thing if I break the law, right? I could be arrested in 5 minutes. But the truth is, everybody knows my schedule. I have office hours for my team. My kids know when I go to church. They know when I'm available to do homework. They know when I go to sleep and not to bother me. And it's not like I'm cutting people out. It's that when I'm with you, I want to be here, right? So I'm here on this webinar, and my kids aren't in the room, and my phone is turned off, and I'm not going to, I have an email, I'm sorry, I have to go, take that email right now. I've carved out this time for you. And so you have to carve out the time that you need for doTERRA and really, really be faithful to it. And I also think it's important that you carve out personal time and be faithful to that too, because we are in the health industry. And so exercise is really important. You want to look like you're a product of the product. You want to look healthy. You want to look well rested. Nobody wants to meet a blue diamond who's exhausted. Trust me, because that's the one thing that they'll go running from. They're like, oh my gosh, she looks like she works so hard. Like, I don't know, it looks like too much work. Well, that's not attractive, right? You want to look healthy and be happy and use the product and have, a life that is somewhat manageable. Like anything can happen at any time. but the more you can stick to a schedule, the easier the whole process becomes, because there's enough challenges without adding, distraction. That's the one thing I see with people all the time, very easily distracted.
Wow, that's very insightful. I think that's it's resonating with us, because as we've begun to build this business, and we're very passionate and excited, and we are committed, we find ourselves running into these same things. Okay, we have to be more diligent with our schedule. Okay, we have to be more committed to approaching it with a professionalism, is really what it is.
Life has to reflect your goals.
What would you say is your favorite oil to share? Coral Darrow from Arizona wanted to ask that, and perhaps you can expand on that from there, just in terms of, we do have a lot of people, maybe they are just shared material.
Right.
And that's, like you said, that's exactly what we're trying to discern, is where do you fit in doTERRA, and what does that work look like for you?
Okay. So I'm actually really shy by nature. So that's one of the challenges I've had to overcome in this whole business. And so I have never walked up to anyone and shared an essential oil that I don't know. My husband does it all the time. He talks to people in languages that he doesn't even speak. He's super outgoing. That is not me. I will not, cannot do that. So I don't have that special oil that I share with people. But I will tell you what I do as a more introverted person. If I were to meet you and we have struck up a conversation and you express to me some type of discomfort, whatever that is, it could be physical discomfort, it could be emotional, spiritual, financial. My question to you in response that connects to doTERRA always is, if I had a potential solution for you, would you be willing to work with me for 90 days to see if we could improve it? Okay, so what I say to people is, if you had a potential solution that I'd be willing to work on with you, would you give me 90 days? So what I share with them isn't a product. What I share with them is the potential for a solution. And I also offer them my friendship, my interaction. So for me, it's not about enrolling hundreds of people. For me, it's about enrolling a few people who know that I'm going to be very, very involved with their life and making sure that they get to where they want to go in the first 90 days. And once you're in for 90 days, you should really understand how doTERRA works, how to place your order, how often to use the products, what the safety issues are, how to look things up in a book, how to get further education. Every team has Facebook groups and webinars and conference calls and, whatever your upline does. And I also encourage you, just keep moving up, because every team has bigger leaders above. And so, make sure you pull on all of those resources. I'm sure, Chantal, you're doing a beautiful job of connecting, so that's probably a redundant thing to say. But one of the things I noticed about doTERRA is that they're very open with information flow. So there's, Pinterest and Instagram, and, there's no shortage of information. But the first 90 days of a person's experience with you and doTERRA is a very special one, and it has to be nurtured. So that's what I share. I share with them my partnership.
That's beautiful. The one last question we have, I'm going to choose one from the chat session here. Jared DeGraffenreid asks, I'd love to hear more of the nuts and bolts of your particular business plan. Is there anything else that you could share with us about the activities or the actions that you take that maybe you weren't able to share already?
You can quickly get to your goal.
Well, to me, it's a numbers game. So if you're premier, you need 2 business partners, and then you need a time frame. So if I wanted to be premier in a month, then I give myself 2 months to find those people. So some people work it differently. Like if they find those 2 people in the first 2 weeks, then they move from like searching mode to training mode, right? So I've got my 2 business partners. Now I'm going to put them on a training plan, and their plan is to find out where their goal is, to map out a time frame, and then figure out what the nuts and bolts of that are. So if I'm going to silver, I need 3 business partners. So now, is it 6 weeks to silver? Is it 6 months to silver? Is it a year to silver? Your time frame is your time frame. And I always recommend to leaders, if somebody says, I want to take 10 years to get to silver, you can work out a business plan for them. They don't have to do very much and they'll get there. So you have to honor people's time frames, because not everybody's going to run at the same pace as you want to run. Some of them are going to want to run faster. Some of them may run more slowly. So, it's a question of how much time you have. So if you have a short amount of time, then you're probably working some pretty long hours. When we got to Diamond in 54 days, and I'm not exaggerating, I think we worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And all we did was basically find business partners and train them, and find business partners and train them. And that was it. And old oil classes. And it was nonstop. It was nonstop for the first 2 years. And then after that, it's been pretty normal, I would say. Which is nice, because, now we have normal at a really nice income level for the rest of our lives. Because I don't think doTERRA is going anywhere. I'm banking on this company being around for many, many years to come. So my retirement plan is well in place.
I love it. That's beautiful. Wow. So in light of you saying running faster versus slower, the action I think a lot of times people get hung up on is actually the steps, the things that you have to do. Calling people, reaching out, inviting them to experience a conversation with you, much like this, where you show them what the potential is. Is that accurate? Is that what when you said working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, the fundamental activities to find builders?
Yeah, well, I can even walk you through my day to day. So I started work at 9:00, and I had a conference call, and I always have an end time for my conference call. And my conference call was with one of my builders, and he's getting to Premier this month. Oh no, to Silver. Sorry. No, to Premier. Sorry, I've had so many calls. He's getting to Premier this month, and he has one executive built, and he needs another executive. And I said, you really need to enroll 10 people and find one business partner for the month. So how are you going to do it? And he was telling me, he's like, well, I've got 3 feelers out over here, and I'm talking to a juice bar, and I'm talking to a hotel. And so he had his list, and I looked at the list, and statistically, 1 out of every 10 people will respond. If they've had an essential oil experience, it could be as small as 1 out of every 5. So when you kind of know the statistics, then you know how many people you have to get in front of to get the result that you're looking for. So his plan was pretty solid. In 20 minutes, we were done with the call. He was excited. I was excited. We always start with a positive, what went really well last month? What's the challenge for the month? And then, kind of a little pep talk at the end, because you want to leave people feeling empowered at the end of the call. So we did that. And then I had another business partner come over. We did a face-to-face meeting. So she was in our house, and we looked at her goal for August, and she came in, and I make people write everything down. That's another thing. So if you're going to talk to me, you have to be prepared, and everything has to be written down. So we looked at her business plan and where she was going for the month and who she was going to talk to. And actually one of her business partners called in the middle of the meeting. And while we were on the call, she's kind of a tentative partner. Like she's a friend of this woman. She's promising she's going to order. She said when she's not too busy, she's going to send some customers her way. But, it's like very tentative. And this person actually needs a little bit more traction. So I said to her on the phone, I said, what's really bothering you? What do you need to get over? And so she told me her issue. And I said, well, okay, anybody else have that issue? And she said, oh, yeah. I said, because I've had that issue. And I got through it with doTERRA. She goes, you did? Tell me what you did. So I told her what I did. By the end of the call, she's got like 40 people coming to a Zoom class just on that issue. So does that make her a builder? No, but it makes her a sharer, and it's going to bring volume into this builder's line. which is fine because, again, we need customers in our restaurant. So that was really positive. She felt really good. Now, she had 2 or 3 orders that didn't go in last month. So she also had some challenges. So we had to kind of work through those challenges and kind of get through some paperwork, which is also part of this job. And then after she left, I do have an assistant that comes in 2 hours a day, which I love. It's really important to me. It allows me a lot more freedom with my family. And, we're working on some long-term projects. So I got to touch base with her on some long-term projects and where we want to go in, February and March. That's the other thing. I have my whole year planned out. So I'm constantly adding projects. So I work with her on that because she keeps me on track. And then I had to leave and go to an appointment. And I went to an appointment and there were 2 builders at the appointment. They brought in 2 potential builders that I met with. And we got them a sort of an initial interview process. They signed on. They said they wanted to do this. And then we're going to have to follow up now. So we didn't get to do the business plan part with them. We just got to enroll them and get their commitment. And then we have to do the follow-up. But the good thing was during that meeting, we scheduled 4 or 5 different classes, which again is about bringing in people, not bringing in partners potentially, but you do need to share essential oils with people and get them excited about the product line. So we were able to accomplish that. And then I came home and I got to have lunch and spend some time with the kids a little bit. Not too much today because I'm actually taking most of Tuesday through Friday off. So I say to my kids, this week, Monday, Mom's working all day, but 90% of what I'm doing the rest of the week is going to be with my family. So, this is a little bit heavier than normal. But after that meeting, then I had to do a presentation because I run a weekly webinar. So that's my class for the week. If you don't have a scheduled weekly class, that's really important. If you really want to build the business, you have to have the same class time all the time, even if people don't show up, because that consistency is key. And I've heard that from a lot of other builders. So I finished that, had dinner with my family, and got on the call. So that's a pretty typical work day for me. I try to, Blue Diamond has 5 legs. I try to work at least one day in each of those legs as much as possible. And then, prospecting for future things. So there's plenty of stuff to keep you busy. And one of my favorite phone calls from people is, I have no one left to talk to. So, when we get to that question, I always kind of, we walk through their day and eventually they see all the people that they have to talk to.
That's actually a very good question you just raised. So that process, you just walk people through who they know and their daily schedule, or how would you?
I literally walk them through their day. So I'll say, okay, so what did you do when you woke up? And they'll say, well, I woke up. And I said, well, who was in your house? And they'll say, well, my husband was in the house. Well, who does your husband know? Have you talked to every single solitary person your husband knows? Well, my husband doesn't like doTERRA. Okay, then for now, we're not going to talk to him. I said, do you have any? Yeah, I have kids. Okay, so who are they connected to? Have you talked to every single person that your kids are connected to? Coaches and school people and friends and neighbors, and I don't know, do they have a paper route? Like, who do they bump into? Your kids know a ton of people. My kids know far more people than I do. And then I said, well, so what did you do the rest of the day? And they, well, I ran some errands. And I said, well, I'm sure there were people in the store. I'm sure there were clerks. We live in a smaller town. Even though it's urban, it's a small, it's a small town where we have, one dry cleaner, one bagel shop, one Starbucks. And so everybody kind of knows everybody. So I said to them, well, when you walk in and you see the same people all the time, don't ask them if they want to buy oils. Ask them if they know people who would be interested in a business position. So I don't usually, when you're talking about connecting out, I don't usually lead with that. And I don't ask them directly. I ask them for referrals because then it doesn't put them on the spot. If you ask anyone to be your business partner, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say no. So you have to leave that door open for them.
Very good. Wow. Well, I want to honor your time, Carrie, and everyone else on the call. I know that I had slated it to be an hour, and we're getting very close to that. I wanted to share at the end of this call just a couple of things. First of all, we are going to continue this series every Monday at the same time with different leaders through the month of August. So I encourage each of you that are on the call to make sure that you find at least 3 people to bring back to the call, and make sure that this is a builder's call. This is meant for those of you that want to be business partners with Peter and I in our team, or with your upline who invited you here, and so I really encourage you to just make that effort, and hopefully this is giving you a glimpse of just the integrity and the actual foundations that people can build on. This is not something to be hiding behind and sneaking into your conversations. It's to be confident and bold and certain of. And if you're ready for that, then we're excited to work with you. And everybody has to go through their process to ask those questions. And so it's not wrong if you say no. It's not wrong if you don't feel like you want to build this way. But hopefully we'll be able to expose you to a number of leaders with different stories and different approaches that perhaps you will be able to say, okay, that I resonate with. So stay on, and I encourage you to stick with us for the next 4 more sessions, 4 more Zoom chats, and to bring those that you want to be business partners with. My next announcement is for my team. We are doing a Zoom chat on Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on the compensation plan. So we're going to unpack it a little bit more with, with slides, with details, so that you can see. I know a lot of times I'm on the phone with you and you're saying, I don't understand this, and it's very hard to explain without having a little bit more tangible material in front of you to be able to illustrate. So we're going to do that. So make sure you tune in for that and watch the team page for details on that. And then lastly, I wanted to do a little giveaway just in Thanksgiving for you being here, and hopefully this will encourage you all as we go. So Peter, let's see, we're going to give us just a second. We have to organize ourselves here. Just a second. Carrie, I'll let you have one last word while we organize the drawing, because I got to run and grab the basket I had.
Okay.
If you want to leave us with one thing that's most important that you think that we need to hear, whether you said it or you haven't said it, what would you tell us?
Oh my gosh, the one thing.
I know. It's always,
we love that.
That's the theme of the convention. Go to convention. That's the one thing. You know what? Have fun in your business. Really enjoy it. Don't ever let the challenges become bigger than they are, because I think sometimes that's why people don't trust this process, because they run up against things and they get defeated kind of easily because they can't see the light in the end of the tunnel. I'm here to tell you that whatever you want to achieve in doTERRA is absolutely possible if you're willing, just to stay positive and keep moving forward and just never, ever quitting. You're going to hear that a lot being in this company. Don't quit on a bad day. And sometimes my team members will call me and they're saying, I'm calling you to talk about something, but I'm not quitting. I was like, okay, then let's talk. So, it should be a really joyful thing. And Chantal and her husband are beautiful people. You've got such a great spirit in your group. And I can't tell you how special that is, because not every doTERRA team is the same. They're all a little different. They all have a different culture. They all have a different feel. And, the little bit that I've had a chance to really get to know her, we've been trying to connect for a couple of years. And I have to apologize, because I have to say at the beginning, I really was like laser focused on getting where my family needed me to be. So I'm glad now that we're more stable, that we can have this greater interaction and get to know, the greater doTERRA family better. And so you really are very blessed to have them, which is something I'm sure you already know. But it's been an honor to spend this evening with all of you. So thank you.
Well, thank you again so much. And we're going to do our little giveaway here. So we have a copy of The 4-Year Career.
Oh, awesome.
A great read. And so Peter is got the...
Let me go get it.
Peter's got it here. Okay, so we have everybody's name thrown in a hat. We did it pretty fast here.
All right.
So, okay.
Susan, how do you pronounce your Susan K-Run?
Is that how you say it, Susan? Susan, we'll just unmute here for a minute. Hopefully, Susan, you can jump on and say hello. And if not, that's okay, Susan. I know a lot of times we're listening in the background, but we're excited. We're going to send you the 4-Year Career. And the giveaways are going to get better. So just so you know, next week I've got Lifelong Vitality. At the final week, so you want to stay with us, we're giving away some jasmine. So stay tuned for that. This is going to be big. So we're starting with just a good business tool tonight. And then we're going to move forward from there. We have double entry for team members, and so it's going to just increase. So tonight was just to whet your appetite. We are going to increase, and every time we have one gift tonight, and each session we're going to increase. So there'll be 2 next week, 3 the following, and so forth. So the drawings are just going to get better. So hopefully that'll entice you to bring your friends, as well as stay tuned with us. So thank you again, Carrie, so much. We appreciate you not only as a leader and a friend, but also a very strong woman of faith who's inspirational to us in many ways. So thank you for joining.
We're broadcasting ourselves.
And we're actually at Catholic Family Land, where Carrie was here just like a week and a half ago. So it's kind of fun. We were almost bumping shoulders in our journey.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Enjoy your stay.
All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, for your time. And we look forward to having you all join in with us next week.
That's right.
Thank you again.
Take care. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.
I get the soul.
Okay.
You can let her in, okay?
I'm happy to stay on for anyone who wants to continue a private discussion, just to dive a little bit deeper and